I retired 3 years ago, 31 years as a diabetes specialist, tens of thousands of patients, and I thought I was finally done. But every morning I wake up thinking about the ones I couldn't reach in time, the ones who were told, "Your blood sugar is a little high," and sent home without anyone sitting down and explaining what that actually means. What is quietly building inside the body? What is coming if nothing changes? So here I am, no white coat, no desk full of lab reports, just talking to you directly, the way I wish someone had talked to my patients years before I ever met them. If you are over 50 and you feel tired all the time, not the tired that sleep fixes, but the kind that follows you through the day, no matter how much you rest. If you are thirsty constantly, drinking water and still feeling like you need more. If you are waking up 2, 3, 4 times a night to use the bathroom. I want you to listen very carefully right now, because those are not signs of aging. Those are warning signs. And I spent 31 years watching people ignore them until it was too late. Stay with me until the end of this video, because by the time we are done, you will know the 3 tests you need to ask your doctor for, the 5 early signs that most people dismiss as normal, and the 1 habit change that research shows can reverse prediabetes in the majority of cases. I will also share the stories of 4 real patients whose lives were changed by this disease, and what each of them taught me about what I wish I had said sooner. Have you ever been told your blood sugar was a little high and just moved on without really understanding what that meant? Drop a yes in the comments. I read every single one. Let me start with something that most people never get explained to them properly. Every time you eat, whether it is bread, rice, pasta, fruit, or something sweet, your body breaks that food down into glucose. Glucose is fuel. It powers your muscles when you walk, your brain when you think, your heart every single second of every day. The goal is not to eliminate glucose. The goal is to keep it at the right level. But glucose cannot enter your cells on its own. It needs a hormone called insulin, made by your pancreas, to unlock the cell doors and let the fuel inside. When everything works correctly, you eat, your blood sugar rises, your pancreas releases insulin, the doors open, glucose flows in, energy is made, and your blood sugar comes back down. It is a beautiful, precise system. I spent years being genuinely amazed by it, and I spent years watching it fall apart. Here is what goes wrong. Over time, because of excess weight, a diet heavy in sugar and refined carbohydrates, not enough movement, chronic stress, and sometimes genetics, the cells of your body start ignoring insulin. The doors get harder to open. Your pancreas notices this and works harder, flooding your body with more and more insulin, trying to compensate. For a while, it manages, but eventually it cannot keep up. Blood sugar starts to climb, and you enter a stage called prediabetes. Prediabetes means your blood sugar is higher than normal, but not yet at the level of a full type 2 diabetes diagnosis. And here is why this matters more than most people realize. Studies show that without any change, between 5 and 10% of people with prediabetes progress to type 2 diabetes every single year. Over 10 years, roughly half will cross that line. Half. That is not a small risk. That is a coin flip on your long-term health. But here is what I want you to hold on to. Prediabetes is reversible, not just manageable, actually reversible. With consistent lifestyle changes, many people bring their blood sugar back to completely normal levels and never develop diabetes. The window is real. but it does not stay open forever. I had a patient I will call Frank. He was 54 years old, tired, overweight, waking up 5 times a night. His wife made the appointment. He came in laughing it off. "Doc, I'm just getting old." His labs told a different story. Fasting glucose of 118. Prediabetes, clear as day. I sat with Frank for 45 minutes. I drew him a diagram on my notepad, a key and a rusted lock. "That key is insulin," I told him, "and right now your cell doors are rusting shut." I told him he was not diabetic yet, but that without changes this story had a difficult ending. Frank lost 19 pounds over the next year. He started walking every evening with his wife after dinner. His numbers came back to normal. He never developed diabetes. He sends me a Christmas card every year. He is 63 now. He dances. He fishes on weekends. He is one of my good stories. But not everyone comes to me while there is still time to change the ending. Margaret was 61 when her eye doctor referred her to me. She had been having trouble reading fine print and assumed she needed new glasses. What her eye doctor found were the early signs of something I have had to describe to patients more times than any doctor should ever have to. Diabetic retinopathy. Inside the back of your eye there is a thin layer called the retina, covered with millions of tiny blood vessels. When blood sugar stays elevated for years, those vessels are slowly destroyed. They leak, they bleed, they scar, and the vision that depends on them begins to fade. Margaret had been living with undiagnosed type 2 diabetes for nearly 4 years. She had no idea. She felt mostly fine, a little tired, a little thirsty. Nothing that told her something serious was happening, but her HbA1c came back at 9.2%. Her retinas had been under sustained attack for years. I had to sit across from this grandmother of 5 and explain that if we did not act aggressively and immediately, she could permanently lose part of her vision. We treated her. She responded. She kept most of her sight, but what was taken could not be given back. Diabetic retinopathy is one of the leading causes of blindness in adults worldwide. And the cruelest part is that in the early stages there are no symptoms, none. By the time vision changes are noticeable, significant damage has often already occurred. But the eyes are not the only place this disease attacks silently. Your kidneys filter approximately 200 liters of blood every single day. They are extraordinary organs, but they are also delicate, and the combination of chronic high blood sugar and the high blood pressure that almost always comes with it slowly destroys the microscopic filtering units inside. The process is called diabetic nephropathy, and for years, sometimes for a decade or more, there are almost no symptoms. I had a patient I will call George. He was 58 when I first saw him. He had been diabetic for 11 years, loosely managed, skipping medications, skipping appointments. By the time he sat in my office, his kidneys were functioning at less than 20% of normal capacity. 14 months later, he was on dialysis. 3 sessions a week, 4 hours each time, connected to a machine doing what his kidneys could no longer do on their own. I visited him once at the dialysis center. He was sitting in a reclining chair, a needle in his arm, watching a game show on a small television mounted on the wall. He looked at me and said, "Doc, I should have listened." I did not have a good answer for him. I just sat with him for a while, Between 20 and 40% of people with diabetes develop some degree of kidney disease over their lifetime. It is the leading cause of kidney failure in most developed countries, and the vast majority of those cases could have been slowed, stopped, or prevented with earlier detection and consistent management. But kidneys are not the only silent casualty of uncontrolled blood sugar. Diabetic neuropathy is the damage that high glucose causes to the nerves, and it affects more people with diabetes than almost any other complication. It starts subtly, a tingling in the feet, a burning sensation at night, a feeling like the feet never quite woke up. Over time, that tingling becomes numbness. And numbness is where the real danger lives. A retired postal worker came to me at 66 because his wife had noticed a smell. When I examined his left foot, I found a deep infected wound on the heel that he had no idea was there. He had not felt it form. He had not felt it grow. He had been walking on it for weeks without knowing. That wound required hospitalization, surgery, and weeks of intravenous antibiotics. He kept his foot, but it was much closer than it should have been. 1 in 4 people with diabetes will develop a foot ulcer at some point in their lives, and diabetes accounts for the majority of non-traumatic amputations performed around the world every year, not from accidents, from wounds that were not felt, on feet that had lost the ability to feel. But the complication that weighs on me most is the one that takes not just the body but the person. Research built over the past 2 decades has made a compelling and sobering case that chronic high blood sugar accelerates cognitive decline. People with poorly controlled type 2 diabetes show significantly higher rates of memory problems, attention difficulties, and reduced mental processing. Long-term studies have found a meaningfully elevated risk of developing dementia, including Alzheimer's disease, in people whose blood sugar has been chronically uncontrolled. Some researchers now refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes, reflecting the deep connection between insulin resistance in the brain and the neurodegeneration that follows. I had a patient named Dorothy, a retired school teacher, brilliant, sharp, and absolutely determined when I first met her at 62. She argued with me about her medications using studies she had looked up herself. She could recite poetry from memory. She was extraordinary. By 71, she did not always recognize her son when he came to visit. I tell you that not to devastate you. I tell you that because Dorothy deserved better, and so do you. And so does everyone who is watching this right now. Quick honest check. Which of these applies to you right now? Number 1, you feel thirsty often, and water does not seem to fix it. Number 2, you are waking up at night to use the bathroom more than once. Number 3, your energy is consistently lower than it used to be, and you cannot explain why. Number 4, you have had blood tests that came back borderline, and you never followed up. Comment the number below. Most comments get a reply from me personally. So what did 31 years teach me about what actually works? The first and most powerful step is knowing your numbers. A fasting blood glucose test and an HbA1c test can tell you precisely where you stand. If you are over 40, if you are carrying extra weight, especially around the belly, if you have a family history of diabetes, if you are sedentary, you need these numbers, not someday, soon. The second step is movement. 30 minutes of brisk walking most days of the week produces measurable improvements in how your cells use glucose, often within just a few weeks. Muscle is the body's largest consumer of blood sugar. Every time you use it, you are directly improving your metabolic health. The third step is changing what you eat. Not perfectly, just meaningfully differently. More vegetables, lean proteins, eggs, fish, healthy fats from olive oil, and nuts and avocado. Far less sugar, white flour, soda, and processed food. Replacing one sugary drink per day with water is one of the highest impact single changes you can make, and it costs nothing. The fourth step is protecting your sleep. Research shows that even a few nights of poor sleep impair insulin sensitivity in otherwise healthy people. 7 to 9 hours of a quality sleep per night is not a luxury. It is a direct metabolic intervention. The fifth step is managing stress. Cortisol raises blood sugar directly. Chronic stress is not just an emotional problem, it is a physiological one. Finding what genuinely helps you decompress, whether that is walking, faith, time with family, creative work, or simply breathing slowly and intentionally, matters for your glucose levels more than most people know. And the sixth step is working with a doctor you trust, someone who will look at your numbers and explain what they mean, someone who will sit with you the way I used to sit with my patients and talk about where things are heading and what you can do about it while you still can. Frank proved this works. George showed me what happens when it does not. Dorothy reminded me why every conversation, every warning, every moment of honest information matters. I retired 3 years ago. I still cannot stop because you are worth the conversation. Before I go, many of you ask about natural support for healthy blood sugar management alongside everything I just described. There are several compounds that appear consistently in the research with meaningful evidence behind them. Berberine activates an enzyme called AMPK that improves the way your cells absorb and use glucose, directly targeting insulin resistance at the cellular level. Bitter melon contains compounds that mimic insulin activity and have shown real effects in clinical studies. Cinnamon extract has been linked in multiple studies to improved insulin sensitivity and reduced fasting blood sugar. Chromium is a trace mineral that enhances insulin's effectiveness at the cellular level, and alpha-lipoic acid is a powerful antioxidant that helps protect nerves from the oxidative damage caused by high glucose, the exact damage that leads to neuropathy. Used consistently as part of a broader plan, the progression tends to look like this. In the first few weeks, more stable energy, fewer sugar cravings, and better blood sugar after meals. Over the following months, improved insulin sensitivity, better weight management, and less fatigue. And with long-term consistent use, sustained healthy blood sugar levels, and meaningful reduction in the risk factors we talked about today. The link is in the pinned comment and in the description below. Please talk to your doctor before starting anything new, especially if you are already taking medication for diabetes, blood pressure, or cholesterol. This is a complement to good medical care, not a replacement for it. Which of the 6 steps will you start today? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Take good care of yourself. You have earned it. Had looked up herself. She could recite poetry from memory. She was extraordinary. I tell you that not to devastate you. I tell you that because Dorothy deserved better, and so do you, and so does everyone who is watching this right now. Quick, honest check. Which of these applies to you right now? Number 1, you feel thirsty often and water does not seem to fix it. Number 2, you are waking up at night to use the bathroom more than once. Number 3, your energy is consistently lower than it used to be, and you cannot explain why. Number 4, you have had blood tests that came back borderline and you never followed up. Comment the number below. Most comments get a reply from me personally. The third step is changing what you eat. Not perfectly, just meaningfully differently. More vegetables, lean proteins, eggs, fish, healthy fats from olive oil and nuts and avocado, far less sugar, white flour, soda, and processed food. Replacing one sugary drink per day with water is one of the highest impact single changes you can make, and it costs nothing. Frank proved this works. George showed me what happens when it does not. Dorothy reminded me why every conversation, every warning, every moment of honest information matters. I retired 3 years ago. I still cannot stop. Because you are worth the conversation. Which of the 6 steps will you start today? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.